The leadership team is absolutely committed to the notion of building a great place to work. We have participated now in the Great Place to Work survey for 7 years. I mean, there's a number of prerequisite qualifications, size, number of employees, et cetera. And so we've now done this for 7 years. And each year, we don't focus as much on the rankings as we do on the gap analysis of where are we short, which categories, which components, relative to the leaders. And we try to think about what could we do to improve our performance in this. So this is not something that happens overnight. This is something you really build towards. And it's like almost a sports event. You practice and you get better at things and you learn new skills and you do new things. But it's got to be a long-term commitment. And every one of the executive team is involved in that process and very committed. It's really kind of funny. I spoke at the Great Place to Work conference in Miami. And they do an annual conference, and there's hundreds of companies there. And I remember the room was populated by human resources people. And I'm thinking to myself, they probably got the assignment to go figure out how to make their company a great place to work. They don't stand a chance. If it's not held broadly as an objective across the entire executive team, you don't have a chance. It's got to be a commitment that you really feel is a fundamental one, just like customer satisfaction is, or product quality, or whatever. It's got to be right up there on the top of the list. Yeah, the inverted pyramid model is one we use when we talk about the role of the leadership in the company. The notion is that we want ideas to percolate up. We want recommendations to percolate up. We're going to try to integrate them together and decide what course of action we're going to take. And yes, the plan and the direction is going to come back down after all the discussions have been had. But at the point where the goals are set, or the budgets are set, then basically the concept is we work for them. That the leadership team, we invert the pyramid. We work for them. So, we get contacted all the time. Can you help on this, that, or the other thing?
So I do believe that we make decisions. Certainly we use our heads, but I think we use our heart. All the time. I can't think of any decision where individuals were actually impacted that there wasn't a lot of angst and verbal, and we talked it through together. So I actually like I like interacting with these people when there is trouble, because I learn, everybody's the same in good times. You find out if you have a friend in bad times. I tell, when I speak in front of groups, I say, I'm sure you've had this situation in your personal life where when you really needed something, people you expect to step up don't, people you never thought would do, and your life changes forever. There is nobody on this executive staff, period, that has not stepped up when we've had trouble.
The response to Dan's proposal of having company values was so negative that he actually set it aside for about a year and a half. But I mentioned earlier, he did share things that he valued, like candor in meetings. He would just say, how was the candor level in the meeting? Is it good? And he shared other things he thought were important as well. And so over time, I started realizing when he was talking about values, he didn't mean who I should vote for or what my religion should be. He was really talking about how we're running the company. In fact, the best analogy that I've come up with is the Constitution for a country. And when someone says our country should have a constitution and we should have freedom of speech and the right to privacy or whatever the list of things is, nobody's going, well, how can a country have values? What you're saying is, here's some rules about how we'd like to run the country. And so when I adjusted it like that, and they are things about the style of company that we'd like, they're appropriate, and a lot of them, honesty, trustworthiness, integrity, they're pretty standard. And I would argue that every company should have certain of them. But other ones are really choices. And here's an example. We've chosen that we would like a culture based on teamwork.
I think it's for certain constant beacons, if you will, that we're moving towards, independent of phases of the company or specifics of the product line or whatever. This notion of building a model company, right? The notion of having a culture that is based on trust relationships as opposed to control relationships. A variety of things like that that have really allowed us, I think, to maintain a degree of constancy, even though everything around us has changed. We've changed products, we've changed markets, we've changed channels, we've changed our strategy, and yet those things remain very constant. So I think you really have to figure out, what is it that's going to keep you together, right, in the face of a variety of different changes, and allow you to figure out how to react to those without basically disintegrating. And I think those anchor points, those beacons, if you will, provide a certain amount of guidance and well-groundedness. Right? We know kind of who we are, and we know what we're trying to do, and I think that's at the very core of how we've been able to be successful. When I was leaving high school and going off to college, it was about the time you have to figure out what your career is going to be. And my father was a fairly senior executive at General Foods, not top tier, but fairly high up. And I'd already gotten enamored in computers, and I was interested in more about computers and programming. So I figured, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be a businessman, and I'm going to do it in the computer industry. And I said, well, my dad always had a lot of frustrations about the upper level execs that never quite understood the business. And I said, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it from the top. So I was going to be the CEO of a computer company. And I said, well, you might as well be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Mm-hmm. I never thought I'd build one.
Yeah.
I never thought it would come from the notion that I took over a 45-person company that had $15 million worth of revenue. And I think we're now in the Fortune 600. Yeah. And probably another year or two we're in the Fortune 500. And who would have thought?